Good morning, Facebook family and friends. Today is March 9th, 2024, and this is Saturday Mornings with Dr. Mama Rosie Thompson. Thank you so much for joining again. I really appreciate it. Um, for everyone who's coming on today, really appreciate you coming on. And today we're going to continue to talk about boundaries. I'm really thinking that we'll finish boundaries today, that we'll finish talking about boundaries today. If not, we'll continue next week. But I'm thinking that today we'll be able to finish this segment and to move on to some other things that I want to talk about. As always, if you find that we need to talk about it more, I am more than willing to do so. So today is March 9th. We're continuing to talk about boundaries, and we're talking about the type of boundaries that people normally have and how to set clear boundaries, because we definitely want clear boundaries in our lives, especially those of us who have dealt with trauma. Have trauma and dealing with trauma triggers in our lives. So just to recap, we keep saying it because it's really important that we know that when we're respecting boundaries, it means that we're treating people the way that they would like to be treated. And it's also showing a willingness to accept them on their own terms. This is exactly what we're asking people to do for us, and this is what we do when we respect other people's boundaries. We're treating them the way they want to be treated, and we're showing that we acknowledge them on their terms. A request, a request is not a boundary. We can have requests, but a request should be our first course of action when we need somebody to do something. A request should be our first course of action. But we want to make sure that we understand that when we make a request, they're not enforceable. And, the outcome of a request is totally out of our control. We don't control how other people are going to react to our request. They may want to hear it, they may not, They may want to hear it, they may not. So, anyway, we want to make sure that we understand that requests are out of the outcome of a request is out of our control. But when we do make a request, we want to make sure that it's detailed enough so that person understands what we're asking. We can't assume, we should not rather assume that because I say that I need you to spend time with me, that they know what that necessarily means. It may mean something different to them. They may feel that I go to work every day and I come home. That is, I'm here all the time. But that may not be the time that you're looking for. And if it's not, you need to make sure that your request is detailed enough for people to know what you're looking for. And our second course of action is to set boundaries, okay? And we know that a boundary is not an ultimatum. We're not setting ultimatum. We're not trying to control anyone. What we're doing is setting boundaries that protects us, that helps us to get to where we need to be and protects us. So we start with ourselves. We recognize that you deserve to be respected. You deserve for people to acknowledge you on your terms. You deserve to have that. This is your life. It belongs to you, and you have a right to it. Define the areas that need boundaries. We talked about your window of tolerance, and as you find the areas in your life that require boundaries, also look for the type of boundary that you're looking for. It may be one type of boundary that you need, but you don't need boundaries like that. They're not blankets, and they're not where you can say this is for everybody. Your boundary is a one-on-one thing that you're setting. Or you may have some that's more than one-on-one, but it becomes up as one-on-one. It's not that you set this boundary and nobody can ever do anything, because it may be different in a family setting than it is in a co-worker setting, than it is in a relationship setting. So remember that setting boundaries are not easy. It's not easy for you, me, or anybody else. Get to know yourself. Take responsibility for yourself. Your boundaries do not need to be perfect, and setting them is a long life practice. So just give yourself, be careful with yourself, and treat yourself as such. Don't hold it against you. When we talk about boundaries, there are three types of boundaries that are commonly function in relationships. One of them is called diffused. The diffused boundary is commonly known as unclear or enmeshed boundaries. They're unclear, they're indefinable. If you set a boundary and it can't be defined, you can't really expect it to be managed or honored. You need to have it where you can define this. This makes sense. It's totally clear. And diffused boundaries are rigid. They're vague. So they happen when someone struggles to define who they are. So that's why we start this off to say how important you are. If we don't understand who we are, it's going to be hard for us to set those boundaries. So when people with diffused boundaries are normally those who struggle to define who they are. And this is where codependency happens, when one can't make his or own decision for their own well-being. You know, when we talk about codependency is a term used to describe relationships where one partner is psychologically reliant on another person. And conflict arises in this scenario because of the unclear rules in a relationship. One person will feel like they're not being heard or that their needs are not met. These A diffused boundary is actually too open, where we overshare personal information or we begin to share information that makes other people uncomfortable. When we look in our lives to see if I'm operating in a diffused boundary, if I have these traits, some of the things that you'll find associated with diffused boundaries, we expect other people to fulfill our emotional requirements. We always agree with other people, regardless of how uncomfortable we are with their demands. We still do it. And my life story, I've talked a lot about how a lot of times I agree with things that I know I didn't like, things that I know I didn't agree with, because in my mind I was keeping the peace, but we don't want to keep the peace at our expense. We feel resentment after agreeing to something uncomfortable. Have you ever done something you really didn't want to do it, and then you get upset about it, and you're resentful after you do it? That's a diffused boundary trait. And we give mixed messages that result in confusion and misunderstanding. So if I say that I don't like, if I have a boundary, and I'm saying that it's something that I don't want in my life, or something that I don't like, and then when you do it, I act like it's okay. I'm laughing with you. I'm joking with you like it's cool. It's not cool. So we don't even physically show those emotions. We don't do anything to give a mixed message about what we said. When we talk about boundaries, setting clear boundaries, they have to be firm, they need to be assertive, and we need to be clear. And we can't we if we're not managing honoring our own boundaries, we can't expect other people to, because those are mixed messages. And when we have diffused boundary relationships, the roles are unclear. It's kind of like a child is more of the adult than the parents. So it's kind of like that. It's like one person is ruling and the other person is just following along, but these people are upset because their boundaries are diffused. We People with diffused boundary will accept they'll accept abuse and disrespect. They'll just accept it because they don't. The boundaries are diffused. They're unclear. Overly involved in other people's problems, or allowing other people to be overly involved in our problems and our problems. That's another trait of a diffused boundary, and these people are often taken advantage of. The second one, there's the diffused boundary. The second one is called the rigid boundaries. Rigid boundaries are those inflexible and don't leave room for any type of collaboration. It's either their way or there's no way. These boundaries are totally closed, unyielding, absolute. One person has no option but to follow the other person's rule and feel bad that their decisions or their opinion does not matter. In this scenario, one person will predominantly keep a distance from the other person, whether that distance be emotionally or physically. They will keep a distance from them. They kind of stay away because they know that person, you can't talk to them. You can't compromise with them, so you just kind of stay away. People with rigid boundaries tend to use manipulation, a guilt, as a tool to stay in control, try to make you feel bad for them because they're trying to stay in control. When they get up, and they'll get upset whenever their plans are opposed, or when you go against anything that they want to do, any of their plans, then they get upset. And they also, you not only do people want to stay away from them, but they stay away. They keep a distance from other people, and a lot of times that's because of fear of rejection. They don't want to be rejected, so they don't let other people get close to them. Traits they're quick to cut people out of their lives. I remember we told you about that, how I used to be I didn't say it out loud, but my sister did, and I was right there with her, that we would give people one better. We cut people out of our lives. When somebody hurt us, we just didn't want to be hurt. We were done with them. They used to always say that Rosie would break up with somebody if they snapped their finger. Rosie would do that, and it wasn't because I didn't want to be with people, but I had rigid boundaries. and I didn't know how to have a relationship because my boundaries were rigid. So how can they know that the boundary is that invisible line that I draw, that for myself, how could they know that this was something that was really affecting me if I didn't explain it to them? So when these people, we cut people out of our lives. When someone hurt us, we're done. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to give second chances. No, you just shouldn't have done that. But how would they supposed to know that they just shouldn't not have done that? So we have surface level. When we have these rigid boundaries, our relationships are always surface level. We have trouble trusting people. And we're reluctant to share anything about ourselves that personal because we don't know how people are going to take it. And this either creates a relationship that don't get very deep, or become lopsided, where we began to serve as a confidant to people to talk excessively about themselves and their problems. So we become that mama said, that sounding board for people just to tell us about their problems, but they don't care or understand to know. They don't care to understand or even to know us. People with rigid boundaries we take everything personally. If you're talking about something, somebody do something, and that could be just them. We gotta understand. I hope that we understand that people go through things in life, whether we think it's a big thing that they're going through, but in their mind it's a big thing that they're going through. So we don't ever know what a person's day starts off like. We don't ever know what a person is dealing with at home. So when these people say things, or when they come in and they treat us like a way that we're looking, because I used to be like, oh my goodness, I said hi, she didn't even say anything. Maybe she didn't hear me. Maybe she's still thinking about how her husband treated her that morning. Maybe she's wondering how she's going to pay for her lunch today. Maybe her life just got turned off. It could be so many things. When we began to understand ourselves and our trauma triggers, it helps us to understand other people. And when we're setting boundaries, we definitely want to, we don't only set boundaries for ourselves, but we respect other people when they have boundaries as well. So these people with rigid boundaries take everything personally, hold people at a distance, both physically and emotionally, in order to avoid the possibility of rejection. Because we are highly sensitive to being criticized. We don't want anybody to criticize us. We're rigid. So both the diffused and rigid boundaries are unclear, they're unkind, and they are really unfair, especially in relationships. They're unfair. When we talk about boundaries, thanks everyone who come on today. I really appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate you listening. Even if you listen later, I really appreciate it. I appreciate your feedback, your comments. We're gonna go and start. I'm gonna stop here and say this. We're gonna go and start a new segment in maybe a week or so. I'm not sure how long it'll be because I have to follow through to finish, make sure that what I'm saying and what I'm doing, I'm completing one thing before another. But the new segment will be Ask Mama. And I'm going to start this segment because I do have, I don't know everything, but I do know a lot. I have experiences in project management. I'm an ordained minister. I was ordained in 1985 as an ordained minister. I have my master's degree in art, and the focus is biblical and ministerial divinity. I'm a substitute teacher. I have a degree in food service, and I have a lot of life experiences, and I have been able to help people, a lot of people, and that's my purpose and passion in life is to help other people. So we're gonna start this segment, and I'll let you know more about it. It's called Ask Mama, and you'll be able to ask your questions. You can do it anonymously, and I'll be coming on Saturday, and I'll be answering your questions, biblical questions, whether it be personal questions, if it be life questions, whatever questions you have. If I don't know, I'm glad that hopefully you know me well enough by now to know I don't have a problem saying I don't know. If I don't know, I don't know. If I can help, I will definitely help. If it's something I can go and research, I'll do that as well. So we'll do that starting, I don't know, in a week or two. Okay, so we talked about rigid boundaries. We talk about diffused boundaries. The boundaries that we want to set and the boundaries that we want to get to are clear. We want clear boundaries. We want to set clear boundaries in our life. We want people to understand what we want. We want to be able to say what we want and do what we want. We want clear boundaries. That's where we're headed. So any well-functioning relationship has boundaries that are clear. If you don't know that person's what they like, what they don't like, if you don't know another person's boundaries, it's going to affect have the relationship. It will not be well functioning. There's room for improvement if you don't listen, respect that other person's relationship. Hi, Antoinette. Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you always coming on. I really appreciate you. And anyone else who's joining, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But when we have to have clear boundaries is about knowing what you want, knowing what you need, and knowing what you also want to avoid. It's just as important that you know what you want to avoid. I don't want this in my life. I want this in my life. I need this in my life. That's what clear boundary is about. It's communicate, and it's also communicating that to other people. And only way you can actually set a boundary is communicate it. Remember when we said that's an invisible line that you draw about what you don't want in your life, but they will not know it unless you communicate it. People with clear boundaries honor and respect their own needs, and we also respect the needs of other people. We respect other values, other people's beliefs and opinions, even if they're different from our own. Doesn't mean we have to agree, but we respect it. So when we talk about respecting, certain things I don't believe, but that doesn't mean that someone else doesn't believe it. So I don't go against what they believe because they believe something different from what I believe. I just respect it. I don't have to be in it. I respect it. So that's what we do. I respect other people's values, their beliefs, their opinion, even when it's different. We share contributions and control in our relationship. I'm not always in control. I don't always get to have my way, and you don't matter. We both matter. That's what relationships is about. You matter. I matter. I treat you the way you want to be treated. You treat me the way I want to be treated. And people with clear boundaries are not afraid to say no whenever their boundaries are not respected. It's important that our boundaries are respected. Clear boundaries, as I said, diffused boundaries are unkind, rigid boundaries are unkind, and they're both unfair. Clear boundaries are kind. Have our own identity. Clear boundaries have their own identity. I know who I am. I know what I need. I know what I like, and we're not codependent. We don't need anybody else to manage our emotions, to take care of our emotions. We're not codependent. People with clear boundaries can ask for their personal space and their quiet time when they need it. It's okay if you need some quiet time, if you need personal space. It's okay if you can't talk on the phone right now, if you're busy, to say, well, you know what, I'm not, even you don't even have to tell anybody why you're not on the phone, but I'm not going to talk to you right now, or let it go to voicemail. That's why we have voicemail. It's okay to do those things. Relax and let it go. When we have a clear boundary, we're voicing our concerns rather than holding on to resentment. That's a huge one, because if our boundaries are not clear, we will have resentment to other people when they cross our boundaries. I want to make sure that if Sister Antoinette is saying something, that I want to make sure that I share anything that she's saying that you may not see. Amen. She just saying, bless you all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the compliment. And Danetta, thank you. And Elizabeth, Rose, I really appreciate you all for watching as well. She said, good morning. See you later. All right. Love you. Okay. So when we have clear boundaries, we can voice our concerns rather than hold resentment. When we don't have those, we will hold resentment against other people for overstepping our boundaries, but they're not clear, or we haven't communicated them clearly enough for people to know this is something that I won't have in my life. Leaving a situation where someone is communicating disrespectfully to us. We can do that because our boundaries are clear. We've set our boundaries. We know where our window of tolerance is. We have expressed our boundaries in the right way. We didn't ask, we set a boundary. That's different, remember? So when we set a boundary and we tell a person what we want, we tell them why we need it, and we tell them what it looks like, what the outcome looks like to us. And I have a couple examples at the end I'll share of a clear boundary. And we expect others to communicate with us. Clear boundaries also come with expectations. We expect people to communicate with us with maturity, even if they disagree with us. That's a clear boundary. If we set a clear boundary and you don't agree with us, we expect you to communicate with us, but maturely. You don't get to do it you don't get to just talk to us any kind of way because you don't agree with us or because we've said or done something that you don't like. We talk to each other. So many people have walked away from relationships walked away from friendships because clear boundaries were not there, and because they got upset about something that somebody did when they never took that time to explain, say, this is a boundary for me. This is what I want in my life. This is what I need in my life. This is how it makes me feel. And if you continue to do X, Y, Z, then I'm going to have to do X, Y, Z, A, B, and C. That's how it goes. You're going to first, it starts with the I statement. They're coming up in a little bit on another slide. We communicate our boundaries kindly and assertively. We talk to people the way that we would want someone to talk to us. When we are communicating our boundaries, we want to be calm. We want to be firm and clear about what we need. Have reasonable, clear and reasonable consequences, but when people cross your boundaries. The first thing, we use the I to express how the action affects us. Remember, when we're setting a boundary, it's about how something is affecting us and what we need for us to take care, for us to self-care. So we use the I expression, okay? We want to keep the focus on our feelings, our needs. We don't want to call out, one thing is a major thing that we definitely don't want to do. We don't want to call out other people's behavior, because you do that. When you do that, it puts them on the defense. So the only time you call out other person's behavior is when it becomes absolutely necessary for them to understand what you're saying. Thank you, Sister Rose. Thank you so much. Yeah, this when you call out their behavior, it's only because it's absolutely necessary to give them an example of what you mean. But don't call out their behavior. That's why we start every statement with I. When you start saying you do this and you did this and I don't like when you, no, that's not the way we want to set a boundary. We want to be direct. Clearly ask for what we need. Be specific. Be exact. Don't leave that other person guessing what you mean. I don't like when I don't like when you do that. And they thinking I didn't do anything. So, we want to also speak in a neutral tone. Your tone is just as important or even more important than the words you choose. If you're talking to someone and you're setting your boundary, you want to make sure that your tone, that you didn't wait until you got upset. You're going to choose the right time. Don't wait for resentment to pile up. They keep doing these things that you don't like. Now you get into a place of resentment. And then you want to go and have a conversation. That's not the right way to do it. Because now they're on the defense and you may end up with a big argument, but you won't get anywhere with setting a boundary. So don't wait for your resentment to pile up, but choose a time when you're both calm and when you're not distracted. You don't want to go to that person when they're watching their favorite television show or when they're on the phone. You want to wait and until you're both calm. You may even have to set aside some time with this person to talk to them about the boundary that you have and things that you need them to do. So you want to pick a time that where they will hear you. And while we're doing it, we want to consider the other person's needs. So that means you may have to compromise. So you may say, I need you to spend more time with me. And they come back and say, what do you mean? I spend time with you. I come home every day from work. No, I want us to go out. Can we go out every other week? I want, I don't know, date night. Or can we go to the movie every other week? And they're like, oh, every other week, that's a little bit much for me. Maybe I can do once a month. You may have to compromise. But just be careful when you start to compromise that you don't give up. Don't give up on what's really important to you, what you really need. If it's something that you really need, you don't give up on that. And when you're preparing for boundaries, get ready for pushback. If the person is simply not willing to accept that you have needs, you may need to step away. That can be hard, especially when it's a person that you care about. Because most of the time, those people that get close enough where we feel like we need boundaries, sometimes it's not. But some of those people are going to be people that we have relationships with. So sometimes those people, if they're just simply not willing, you want to compromise. You want to consider their needs. You want to speak to them in a way that that you're respectful. The same thing that we're asking them to do. So remember that boundaries are not about shutting people out, and it's not about putting a blanket no over everything they want to do. No. It's not that, but it's paying attention and verbalizing what you need. That's what it's all about. We want to pay attention and we want to verbalize what we need. Okay. So when you talk to someone and you have a boundary, something that you have a need, let's say that this person is coming home late, and you find that to be inconsiderate. They just come in anytime, day or night. And To say to them, you know, you're coming home late all the time and that's inconsiderate, that's really putting blame on them. That's not a boundary. But you want to start whenever you set a boundary, start it with the word I. I feel worried when you come home late. I can't sleep. That's how you start it. I feel worried. I can't sleep when you come home late. You know, I'm trying to, you know, I have to get up tomorrow morning and I need to get my rest and I'm not feeling rested. But make sure you tell them what you need. I. Make sure you use I. And then when you set a boundary, you tell them, I feel worried when you come home late and I can't sleep. If you're going to come home late, can you please call me? That's a boundary. So you've given them what you want them to do. They know now that whenever I know that I'm going to be late, I need to call. That's what you've asked them to do. That's a boundary. Then here's one. You got this person that, you know, you're in a relationship and you call them and you check on your friend and they never call you back. And you say, you never call me. I always call you. You never call me. That's blame. Let them know how it affects you. That's what what boundaries are about. How does this affect you? So instead, we can say, I feel hurt when you go so long without calling me. How does it make you feel? How does it affect you? That's what about. And I know it feels sometimes like making ourselves vulnerable when we open ourselves up to tell somebody how it makes us feel. But that's how we set boundaries. I feel hurt when you go so long without calling. I would love to hear from you 2-3 times a week. I would love for you to call me back once a week. Set a boundary, give them something, and remember that you're not controlling anybody, but you're giving them time to adjust to the new boundary. Because maybe they've been used to not calling. Maybe this is the first time you came up to say that this bothers me. You know, this could be the first time you've ever done that. So when we're setting our boundaries, just remember that there are rigid boundaries. We definitely don't want to have rigid boundaries. Hi, Candy. Thank you for joining. We definitely don't want to have rigid boundaries. We don't want our boundaries to be rigid. And we don't want them to be too, where we can't be flexible at all. We don't want them to be too open where it's not really a boundary. It's more of an ask, but we're calling it a boundary. We don't want that either. But we want our boundaries to be clear. And we started with the I statement. When you let that person know how this affects you, how this makes me feel. So, and we're not pointing blame. We're not telling them what they do wrong. We're always telling them what we need. That's what boundaries are about. This is what I need. I need this. I feel this way. This is me. I need this. And then when that person care about you, that person will hear you and try to accommodate you. Maybe compromise with you. You may have to compromise. Remember that. Remember, the things that I want you to take away out of this, I definitely want you to remember to, let me go back a little bit because I think it's really important that we are kind when we speak, that we're calm when we speak. We want to communicate kindly and assertively. We want to be calm when we speak. We want to definitely, please use the I to express the boundary is setting, what's missing, how it affects you. We want to keep our focus on our own feelings and our needs. We want to be direct, clear when we speak, when we sing. We want to be specific. We don't want to give a roundabout idea of what you may be doing. We want to say that's why we take the time to get to know ourselves. That's why we take the time to see where window of tolerance is, because when we get ready to speak, you need to speak it in a clear tone. We don't want it to be so broad that they got to try to figure out what we're talking about. We want to be exact. Don't leave them guessing. Want to use a neutral tone. Make sure that our tone is not filled with resentment. You know, our tone is important. Sometimes more important than the words that we choose. Choose the right time. Consider that other person's need. Do not go and try to hold an important conversation, like such as setting a boundary, when that person is distracted. And then be ready for pushback. Know that sometimes you may get pushback. And Sister Rose said, you can only speak for you. Control you and ask for what you need. Amen. That's what we do. We can only control us. We can't we can't make anybody do anything. That's why our first course of action, when we ask them, if they don't do it, then we set our boundary. This is a boundary, and your boundary will always have consequences, reasonable consequences. This is what I need. Like, excuse me. I told you when I went out to that to coffee with that man, and I was talking to him about about the language, the things that he was saying, and I had a real problem, and I had a real problem with what he was saying, and I told him, I said, I don't like that. I don't like this conversation. I don't like when we talk bad about other people. I believe that we should build other people up, and I just don't like that. I don't like people. I don't like talking about the young men with the sagging pants. I don't want to talk about the girls that ain't wearing no clothes. If I'm not out here trying to help them do something different, I don't like that conversation. And I kept asking him, will you please, let's talk about something different. Let's not, tell me about you. I don't want to talk about this. This bothers me. And he wouldn't do it. I had to get up and leave. I can't make him do it. I can ask for what I want. My boundary was, if you continue to do this, then I'm going to have to leave. And that's when I ended up leaving. Okay? And Jeanette said, asking for prayer. Dealing with rude. Sometimes we're going to deal with rude and disrespectful people, but we can always seek help. I'm always talking about counseling when we're dealing with, especially when there's been trauma in our lives, especially when we got trauma triggers affecting our lives. We get help. When we're setting our boundaries, we can get help. When I first started to learn about boundaries, not really learn that the way that I know now, but they were in my life in a way, but not really clear. When I first started to learn about them, and I would say no about something, I didn't set a boundary. I just would say no to people when I felt that I needed to, and it wasn't really a clear boundary. But when I did that, I felt so guilty. I never said no. I didn't know how to say no. And I always felt like I was doing something wrong. You remember? As a kid, we're taught to be nice. As a kid, we're taught to let other people do things. We apologize to the kids who hit us first, and we beat them up. So we had to apologize. Our parents made us. So to say no to somebody was foreign to me. I didn't know how to do it. And I would feel so guilty. First, I would start off by trying to find another way out. If they wanted me to do something that I felt that I couldn't do, I tried to find somebody else for them that they could go to. Well, I don't have the money, but maybe you can ask so and so. So that was not good, and that was wrong, because I put another person in a position that I didn't want to be in. As I said before, I really, really, really appreciate. That's all I have for today. Those are that's all I have about boundaries. If I hear from you and you say that I need to be clear on something, or I need to go back and do something else, I will definitely do it. As I said earlier, we're going to start a segment in the next, I guess, week or two, and it's called Ask Mama. You can ask me any questions, as I shared already with before on the line, that I do have my doctorate in arts in biblical and ministerial divinity. So I have my doctorate degree, and I do know the words. Thank God I do. I've studied. I'm an ordained minister since 1985. I do have a license in food service. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm certified as a project manager. I'm a treasury advisor. If you need assistance if we can help to manage your finances, whatever we need, I'm here to help with anything that I know how to do. And I will not take on anything or give information that I'm not sure about. So if I don't know, I will definitely say I don't know. But I'm getting ready to start this new segment called Ask Mama. The name of it will be Ask Mama. All right. So thanks again to everyone who came on. I will be posting this onto YouTube after we finish this call. And I just want to go over our affirmations for today, our boundary affirmations for today. And it says, we are allowed to set boundaries. It is in our best interest to do so. We're worthy of being treated how we deserve to be treated. Our peace is valuable, and we will protect it. People worth our energy will respect our boundaries. If they're worth our energy, they will respect our boundaries. We honor ourselves. It's an honor to ourselves when we speak our needs. So we honor ourselves by speaking our needs. We don't just let them go like they don't matter, and we're saying that we matter. We matter, and we speak our needs. So we honor ourselves by speaking our needs. We are a safe place for ourselves. If anywhere in the world is not safe, in us, we're going to be a safe place for ourselves. We're not moved by what other people say about us, only what we say about ourselves. And we say that we are worthy, We say that we are awesome. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are the head and not the tail. We are the lender and not the borrower. We are blessed when we go in. We are blessed when we come out. Everything we touch is blessed. Our life is blessed. Our finances are blessed. Our children are blessed. Everything that's around us are blessed. Even if enemies around us, when they come to do us wrong, they are blessed because they know us. Even if they don't realize it, we are blessed in every way. And we thank you so much for Sister Shirley sending this one and asked us to add this one. Today is a very good day to have a great day. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming on so much. Really do appreciate you. And I look forward to speaking to you again on Saturday at 8 a.m. Thank you so much for joining Saturday Mornings with Dr. Mama Rosie Thompson. You all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on Saturday. Goodbye.